It's another edition of Checking In with Hein and Johnny, where the hosts bring in mystery topics that neither host knows anything about until the mics go hot and on the air. We are the show that keeps the host from talking about the weather and World War II 24 hours a day. Hey, Heine, man, what's on your mind?
It is, and I'm really more wondering, like, what's on my desk rather than what's on my mind.
What is on your desk?
I don't know. I think it could be some hardened maraschino cherry juice.
Ooh. Or a murder. Could it be a murder? Eye candy, if you like murders, then, and you don't watch CBS, get your TV on CBS on Thursdays, because there's a bunch of murder procedurals like the old throwbacks. There was a show called The Good Wife. Did you ever watch The Good Wife?
Does that have Muriel Hemingway?
It does not. This was a little bit past that. Good Wife.
Jane Seymour?
There was a spin-off, and then there was a character that was so funny called Elsbeth. And now Elsbeth has her own show based in New York City. And she's hilarious and weird. And it's a procedural. So every week there's a dead body on Thursday nights. So if you like murder and blood on the ground, that's a good one, and it's quirky. Matlock is also kind of a fun procedural. It's not as many murders, but it's a law one. And
Andy Griffith is somebody I can relate to.
Oh, totally. The man's a legend in black and white.
I know that it's not him anymore. Not even CGI created.
It is
And
not.
I think I watched an episode of that somehow.
Yeah, it's just a. They just use the name for reference, though. It's not anybody that's. Oh, I shouldn't say anymore. If you like quirky, funny shows, both of those are pretty funny. One on Peacock that's good is also a throwback. She's a human lie detector, and she's,
if I could time travel back and hit on women from TV's past.
Muriel Hemingway?
No, Angela Lansbury.
Oh.
But I'd be going way back to like the 40s. So do you think they'll bring back Murder, She Wrote?
Judging from what I have seen in the television space, Henry, I guarantee you Murder, She Wrote will be back. It will not be a kindly Angela Lansbury singing her way across the little town. They'll change it up, so it will definitely not be an old grandma. It'll be someone in a small town with a bakery, and a hunky dude comes from New York to work on the barn. That they'll switch it up. It's got to be more Hallmarky for them to bring that one back.
I think the small town that immediately comes to mind for me that they could set this in is Muleshoe, Texas.
Muleshoe, Texas. Why does that pop in your mind about that? I've never even heard of Muleshoe.
Well, it's near Bovina and Hereford and kind of in that cattle raising district. And I think that is an untapped area.
Untapped Hallmark market. Have you ever lived, any of your houses been near like a farm type area?
so much. Not
We
so
had
much.
one. We had one house in Florida that had cows right next door. Like our backyard, I mowed the grass, and the cow could stare me in the face, with his nose over the fence. And it was fun to see cows. My grandkids love the cows.
About the flies.
Now we've talked about all the good things. We have a ledger, and our ledger has good and bad. Well, we've talked about all the good things. Grandkids love cows, and they love the cows. Here are some of the drawbacks. You have hinted at one of them. Lots of flies and insects. And another is rats. Boy, oh boy, howdy. We're Cattle and cattle food must have a total attraction for rats, because we had rats everywhere. They were chewing through everything in the whole yard. I mean, it was a battle. It was me with a shotgun trying to ward off all the rats coming from the farm.
So are you, here's what I'm watching, Johnny.
Yeah.
Are you watching Clarkson's Farm?
No, tell me about Clarkson's farm.
It is, I believe, on Prime. Jeremy Clarkson from that show with James May and Richard Hammond.
Nice. And do you like
Top Gear? Top Gear.
Oh.
And he's British, and he takes all of his money and buys a farm in the Cotswold.
Nice.
Which is in the, I don't know if that's the Midlands, but it's over towards Wales. And he has lots of adventures, which are fun, doing the things that you would do if you bought a farm and you had never measured the scrotum of a sheep before. Spoiler alert.
Oops. We don't want to ruin it for anybody. Well, it sounds really funny. That's great.
Check that out I think it's on Prime Video.
Prime. Clarkson's.
Clarkson's Farm.
You complained several weeks ago. You're like, the whole basis of our podcast is two exceptional review critics reviewing books, movies, and TVs, and you're like, I don't think we've reviewed anything in 5 months. And I laughed because it's true. I don't think I think we'd lost our way. So now look, we did like 4 references. We did. I feel so good about myself. Yes. Oh, yes. Let's see.
Feel like fast. Boom, boom, boom. What else we got?
Now, there was no cymbal crash I was waiting for. In your house, are you the light switch Nazi? Are you the one that's running around the house turning off all the light switch, or is that Chris?
No, that would be me, but all of the prisoners escaped from the prison camp so long ago that now I just celebrate America's energy independence by having every light in the house on all the time.
Nice.
And celebrating it.
Nice.
And usually a couple of TVs.
You have you've like jumped the hedge, and now you're on to the new phase of just basking in fake light. That's great.
Yeah. Yeah, our house is a little bit like a bunker too. I don't know what the design thought was, but it's dark.
It's mostly corners.
It's mostly dark, so you want to have some light and your reading glasses on so that you can
see anything.
Find which end of the Metamucil to open.
Speaking of the speaking of the challenging parts of getting older, Allison the other day says, looks at a photo that we had taken of me and the grandkids, and she goes, "Why do you always take photos and you always show your big neck, this fat neck showing all the time?" And I'm like, I hate to break it to you, it's because I have a humongous, fat, drooping, drooping neck. I'm just glad you hadn't noticed in live TV because it's always there, and there's no way not to show it.
Many species use their neck area as a technique to attract a mate. Think about the bullfrog. Aren't they attracting mates?
I guarantee you they are. The lizard, I noticed when we lived in Florida, the lizard was totally about their massive hanging necks.
Hey, ladies, drink it in. It always goes
Hello,
in smooth.
ladies.
And
Check
there
out
you
my
are.
fantastic neck. Oh, there we go. So, Henry, you are Mr. Silver Linings. You find a silver lining in everything, which I appreciate. So I shouldn't worry about my gigantic turkey gobbler because it's drop dead sexy, and that's a silver lining.
You know, I'm not sure exactly which culture it is out there in the country. It could be Pacific Islands or Borneo or perhaps Guinea in South America.
We're huge in
They
Guinea.
see excessive ear hair growth as a sign of virility and vitality in the men. It's growing here. Mm-hmm.
Well, then I am very virile, and when I go to Borneo, I am going to be worshipped because I have to use a weed whacker to get through all that. My Viking son, who watches this podcast, he does not. He does not use a weed trimmer. He's au naturel, and I am glad I hacked through that in my mid 30s because you wouldn't be able to see my face. It would be so bold and disgusting. I could use it as a mustache by this time in my life. Well, I have enjoyed we have gotten back to a format I'm so proud of. Another related though kind of a homeowners thing. Have you ever done the landlord thing where you buy a house and you're going to be a real estate guru and you had tenants? Has that ever come up in your life?
Oh, yeah.
My experience was horrific. They stole the ceiling lamps. They stole the lights. They even stole like an old-timely worthless thermometer, the thermostat off the wall. They stole everything. I did more drywall and fixing of doors than I ever did in my life. So I stopped being a guru.
You've got to qualify them. My problem is and we have one little house, and then we have some commercial stuff, and our problem is the renters ODing when served with an eviction notice.
Oh,
Yes.
hard to see a silver lining in
Body
that.
count's only been one so far, and then
But one for one is rough.
the other one just went to the hospital and had a tough time protesting the civil action due to brain damage. But it is, folks, there's another way out of your lease. Talk to the landlord, where they're frequently reasonable.
Frequently, you don't need to OD or cause yourself brain damage.
Yeah, and it's the landlord horror stories go on and on. I had a friend who, his like cousin, they were these biker guys, and they had a place, and so they went over to collect the rent, and the renter shot them both, killed one of them, and just wounded the other. Yeah.
No
Yeah,
silver lining there.
it's tough being the sheriff of Nottingham out there in this day and age.
No, and although, it wasn't anybody that had in your family or friends, but it still sticks with you a bit.
Sure,
It's
it's like maybe
hard
I'll just send the sheriff over to have to show up and try to intimidate the renter into paying. I don't know what happened there. I can only imagine it. But oh yeah, it's renting is, the kids have an Airbnb, or they did, and they have they just rented to a guy who he misrepresented who he was. Said he was Clark Kent, looking good, very attractive glasses and whatnot. And in reality, he was Lex Luthor, and moved in and started having parties and whatever goes on. And they had to throw him out. Now there are laws that protect these poor, innocent people who rent from you against the evil of the landlord. And it takes an act of Congress to get them out.
My experience was not good. So yeah.
Now, did you get the people out? Did they? I mean, they just trashed it.
Yeah, I guess mine is not unique in that, they just, of course, never paid the rent and trashed it. It takes 3 months to, fix everything. So, yeah, I'm not going to be on any Tony Robbins landlord make $1 million in real estate, because all of my,
As a matter of fact, I always have by my side, which is right here by me, this book called Real Estate Investing for Dummies, by my side all the time.
you have
Anytime
post-it notes and bookmarks right there in it.
Have to look up anything like the 3 basic approaches to value.
Man, I love that. That's the Bible for most people.
I talked to some other evil landlords, and they their criteria for renters was, what's their credit score? If they don't have a high enough credit score, they are not renting.
Hey, there you go.
And
that's a good way to do it.
And then you have to figure out, is the information they're giving to you really who they are? If they misrepresent that, then when they're in your rental property, they are technically breaking and entering, and the police will remove them promptly if you have a stern police force, which
look at you.
Here in Utah we do. I support the police and
We
all their
like
efforts to restore law and order around the city of Salt Lake City.
We are all for those boys and women in blue. We do not like lawlessness. Makes it a little difficult to sleep. So do you, and you have tons and tons of experience with it. So I'm so glad. Look, we're making you into a mogul. If you're watching our podcast, you just making the money.
It's I look at it, and these properties have appreciated. They're difficult to sell because on the valuation method, the rents don't bring in. You know what? The rents bring in passbook interest.
Nice
levels. It's like if you had that money in the bank, now when you have nice interest rates or better interest rates, Yeah, that's about what you're making. If the interest rates go to zero, okay, yeah, then it's a little better. And that's on the money that was invested 30 years ago, not on current value. So it's a read the book. It's Real Estate Investing for Dummies. Well-worn copy by your bedside underneath your Bible, and you're good.
I like it. I like it. We're nothing but positive learning today. Any times during the day, if I find myself, speaking of home ownership, if I hear the trash truck, I do the 100-yard dash to try and get every single ounce of trash out to the trash dude. So I do a 100-yard dash to every corner of the house, trying to get the house sterile of every item, even the stray post-it note. Do you do that in a freakish? Do you have to get every single Q-tip into the trash bin as the dude picks it up?
You know, Johnny, as a mogul that I am, I've delegated some of those tasks to other members of my staff, and there's nothing I enjoy more than watching that little gal get that trash up the curb. It's amazing.
We love it when others do the
I'll
grunt
probably
work.
sleeping in the trash can storage area, about when this podcast gets out there and our third listener listens to it, and
Yes, you will.
and I'll be dodging pots and pans.
You have had many criticisms of your arrogant and horrible comments on the podcast. I would say the fact that you're still willing to join me on the podcast after being berated by the boss, I am very impressed. Namaste to the Heine man.
As much as I tiptoe around on this show, I have let's see, I have offended her by the top number one complaint was, did you just call me Colonel Clink?
That's classic.
The other one is any awkward moment. The children really are offended if I say, like, I really, really, really want to get next to Julia Louis-Dreyfus. They're like, oh, that is so awkward. How can you talk about any other women other than my beloved wife, who is
Betrothed.
really good out at getting that stuff out to the curb.
She's very patient. Speaking of our beloved, lovely, and patient wives, is there anything that she said you couldn't do? My wife said, you can never get a pilot's license because I'm an idiot and will do anything. And so, of course, as an idiot, I have to want to get a pilot's license. And she said, no. Is there anything in your life that Chris just said, sorry, idiot, you're not going to do that?
It probably is a whole list that can't be covered. I don't know what let's see, what is she, anytime I drive, there is a list of grievances that, things I can't do. Don't get too close to that semi, drive over here in the right lane, park over there. But
driving is tough.
I don't know that no, she's pretty good. Probably if I wanted to get my pilot's license, she'd say, okay. I do enough, I run out of gas enough in cars, let alone running out of gas in an airplane. You don't just kind of coast over to the side of the road and stick your thumb out. So I would love to be a pilot, but
yeah,
like a World War II pilot and
You would need
fly,
to be the throwback again.
die that way into hail of anti-aircraft fire. But just kind of like, he was a little short on approach and oops.
Bam. He's but a memory. He's just a memory in our lives.
Do you know a lot of do you know any dead pilots?
Well, I have not had any pilots in my family, but of course, friends and neighbors and folks that were pilots. And yes, they never had it like an actual fatal crash or anything. But I think my wife, of course, just doesn't want me to die in a fiery plane crash on approach. So one thing, I am a complete idiot. So she knows I would fly in unsatisfactory conditions. I would have no scruples she knows that the angels that are on my shoulders keeping me alive, she knows them personally because I do a lot of really stupid things. So yeah, just trying to keep me alive. Anything that one of the things that, as you were saying, as we've kind of gotten older, when my wife was younger, we had 25 pillows on the bed. And that must have been like a trend, because that was a very common complaint for all the spouses in the world, is that in order to get in the bed, that we had to retrieve 80 pillows and chuck them every night onto the ground or into some box. She has gotten out of that. Was Chris ever a massive decorative pillow person?
Like the standard, I think 8 that are there all the time.
Yeah.
And occasionally you'll get throwing the pillows off the bed, and there went a dog.
Someone gets it in the face.
Was that a black and tan coonhound I just threw over in the corner?
Oops. Sorry. Yeah, the
Ugly little Dickens.
The doggies love getting on the bed and getting in the pillows. My bulldog Daisy would sit her butt on my face. It was her favorite spot. It was weird. So there must be something encoded into them to want to be on top of their peppy spouse, or because that dog was on my head all the time.
We have what I call an American cuddling hound. He just kind of comes up to you and he puts his head on you and he starts pushing a little harder and then a little harder, and then all of a sudden he's flop on your chest.
Jig just kind of shimmies up. I love it.
I love it. He's a good friend. Little stinky. Just the effervescence of
the ears
on the yard, perhaps a nearby cow pasture, but it just blows through the house like a little gentle stream.
We kind of have always lived, like we're saying, by this cow farm, and it seems like we've always been near a stream for some reason when we lived in some of the houses. A lot of nature, tons and tons of snakes. Any nature things in the wild that you've had attack you or walk by? No real bats or snakes or anything?
Our last home backed up the national forest. You name the varmint, it was there.
Raccoons and bears,
mountain lions.
Ooh.
Deer, the odd deer. We had raccoons and ringtails, which they're kind of the miner's cat, and they eat rats, which
that's a good thing.
We had wood rats, which are known as pack rats, which we've discussed on a previous episode.
We love those.
Yeah, that's that is, that's, you don't want to go down the dog rat hole right now, where we had, many dogs that would go out and explore the woods and hang out and stay out
Yeah.
overnight and chase things like bears.
That's not a good thing.
It is. That's the wife went. We had a dog that was at the Los Alamos Pound, and one of Chris's friends said, "Have we done this before?" The
No.
we get this photo of this little droopy looking hound dog, and it's by an umbrella. It's a glamour shot. And so the dog sits for 6 weeks in jail. And finally, Chris goes and picks it up. And her name is Nanny. And she brings it home. We were out walking the dog one day. It's kind of a loner dog, not particularly lovey. And one day it picks up the scent of something, drags Chris through the cactus. She lets go of the leash. The dog runs away, chews off the leash pretty quick. I'm chasing it over hill, over dale. And finally, I come up and to look across the valley. And there is the dog sniffing butts with a bear.
Oh,
and so I am like, this is where I watch my dog die. So I call Chris, like, oh, the dog's going to die. They're sniffing butts with a bear. But then it's woof, 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 woof. So finally, I end up at the bottom of a tree, and she's like, woof, 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 woof. And there's a bear up in the tree.
Holy smokes.
And she looks at me and says, like, where's the shotgun, idiot?
Man.
And I said, oh, man, all I have is my cell phone camera. So I took a picture of the bear and grabbed the dog and said, sorry, buddy, we'll take her home. Collected the other dog that was out there bellowing too. And that dog treed 3 more bears that I have photos of. And one bear was up there. What I learned about bears is the little ones run up the trees and stay there. The little bit older ones are not as afraid of you. So I watched her tree one bear, and the bear came down out of the tree and wrestles with her, arr, 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 arr. But the dog, woof, 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 up another tree. So then I went over, took my photo. I mean, and these things are like drooling on you from the treetops as you collect your dog. And took her home. So she was one tough cookie. For an old dog, we had her for 18 months because she was on death's door. We got this script from the pound that said all of the ailments and cancers that she had in her body, but she was a very memorable pet.
You even have photo evidence of how much she loved chasing bears.
Oh yeah. No, can't deny that. So
that's amazing. That dog just that particular dog was just insanely loved chasing bears.
Yeah, dogs, we'd go out of town, and our next 2 dogs, they would bust out of the yard. And we'd have a little dog sitter who's supposed to be there, and they're like, the dogs are out of the yard. And we're out of town. And so we could watch the dogs on their trackers, and they would go way up on the top of the mountain at about 9,000 feet. And we'd watch them stop, which meant they're sleeping somewhere. And then we'd look at the temperature and go, well, at our house, it's 16 degrees. And they would stay out overnight, and they'd found somewhere to cuddle up. And so I look at these people who put like jackets on their dogs because it's 40. It's like
unnecessary.
Yeah, they're out there. And the next morning they would wake up, roll out of bed, roll on down the hill. Woof, woof, woof. Hey, it's breakfast time. We're home.
Oh, that is classic.
Oh yeah, we've had some amazing dogs. It's amazing what you learn when you put trackers on them and can follow them around when they're just out in the woods.
That's crazy. That's a great one. No, you never gave us the delight of the bear and doggy stories, Henry.
When we first got these dogs, and probably one of the first times they broke out of the yard and went away, they went over the Sandia Mountain. And so one of them,
Man.
and they had their trackers would die. They'd go out and die. And so one of them, about 10 o'clock at night, we get this call from a barbecue on the east side of Albuquerque. And they're like, yeah, you got a black and tan coon hound over here. He showed up at our barbecue, and we gave him a burger, and he wants to stay. And so I would get in the car, and it was a 30-minute drive on the freeway around to go get the dog. And so I picked up that dog, and I looked up into the blackness of the mountains and cliffs. You know, it's like you wouldn't want to go try to hike back that way. And I said, there's another dog out there, and he's lost, and his tracker's dead. And all you can do is say, well, I guess that one's a goner.
The bear won that fight.
And so we drove home and went to bed and kind of up and all night. And it's like, well, we'll leave the gate open for him. And at 2 a.m., ga-dunk, ga-dunk, the doggy door opens and he's home.
That is crazy survival skills.
If you've ever had one of those little cuddlers crawl up into your bed at 2 a.m. and they've just been hit by a skunk, that'll get you up.
Oh, yeah, the bed that pillows you, everything reeks of skunk for 5 days.
It would wash off pretty easily. But what they were doing is they were finding some sort of animal urine and then rolling necks in there to, disguise their scent so they can really sneak up on stuff. And so it's impossible to wash it out of their collars because that's where they really grind it in deep.
Oh my gosh, that is awesome.
Those dogs, and that little, it was a red bone from Texas. He's a red bone hound. He was the cagiest, smartest guy I know. You could watch him avoid people on the trail. He'd come down the trail. He'd sense there was a hiker. He'd cut off through the weeds, go around him, back to the trail, and come on down.
That's awesome.
Amazing. And he was kind of a neat dog for somebody who, he didn't have a lot of personality, like fetching balls, but it was all just like street sense.
And he was thinking, I'm not getting that ball for that idiot. If he wants his own ball, he can go get it himself.
So one day, well, anyway.
Come on.
One day,
goods.
they'd get away from us. We'd have to go bushwhack them. You'd ambush them. You'd have to ambush them to catch them. So one day I'm winning, and I get out in front of them and I cut them off, and I'm up in the trees, and here they come up the trail, and we're loose. They're all smiling and happy, and I step out from behind the tree and I go, chops, really loud. And that dog pooped right in the middle of the trail, right there. Just plop, 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 plop. Oh!
40 minutes. We knew we'd get to poop sometime.
Oh, yeah.
Classic.
Yep, it's going to happen. So anyway, that's my dog, part of my dog lifestyle.
Man, I love it, Henry. Well, I thought this kind of fantastic award-winning podcasting should be entered into a contest. So, on Facebook, how half of the things you see on Facebook are ads. I mean, it's like your friend and then 3 ads and then your friend's information. Well, one of the ads was, hey, shouldn't you get your podcast on the Webbies? Shouldn't you, get an award, see how you are and compared to other podcasters? So I'm like, I probably should. Henry's dog stories, pooping in the woods, are so good. So I fill out the form. Honestly, it took probably 30 minutes to fill out the form. And, the category is like entertainment and, talk show format. So I clicked that.
News and news? Oh,
News, religion, and politics. I did not. So, 2 areas. I get to the very last thing 30 minutes later, submit one of our podcasts, and the charge is $1,200 to be in the awards possibility. Oh my gosh. I'm like, Henry's pooping stories are good, but they're not that good.
but Johnny, I think for $1,200, every kid gets a trophy.
Yeah. Oh my guess is we and everybody else dumb enough to give him $1,200. You'd get something.
Yes, best podcast about a neck waddle.
And we win that hands down. Well, I 100% did not, and we will not be getting the Webby for our fantastic poop stories we talk about every blooming week. That will not be happening. Well, any other exciting things for spring? Anything, any plans, any races, anything exciting we have to look forward to, Heine?
Yeah, I can't see past the next Chicago trade show. How about you? What are you doing for the rites of spring once it finally has sprung?
I do want to give a shout out to what has to be my absolute favorite thing. We're going to go to some baseball games. I've conned my wife into liking baseball, which no wife should ever have to do, but she has been dumb enough to watch baseball with me. So we're going to go to a few games. I want you to know the one team that I have to give my Heine to next 6 months from now, we're going to have the Heine Awards again in August. Well, the team that gets me to vote for a Heine in August is the Tampa Bay Rays, because one of their players is Fairbanks, Pete Fairbanks. Big vote. Now, what would put them over the top? I mean, I love that Pete Fairbanks is on their team. That's fun. What would put them over the top, though? To get a Heine, it can't just be fun. Something's got to put them over the top.
3 players named Henry Morrison.
Very close. There's one named Heine Man.
That's good.
When I saw Heine Man and Fairbanks together, I'm like, best team names ever. Well, that's it, folks. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Checking In with Hein and Johnny. You can follow all things Hein and Johnny by subscribing to Checking In with Hein and Johnny anywhere you listen to podcasts. Checking In with Heine and Johnny is sponsored by Conveyors and Equipment. They supply, design, and service all types of conveyors, belting, and material handling equipment since 1972. With 3 locations to serve you, Salt Lake City, Albuquerque, and El Paso. Find them on the web at conveyequip.com. That's ConveyeEquuip.com.